Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Have you noticed yet how much effort it takes to be you? Of course, this you is a fiction. Throughout a lifetime, we formulate this you out of the conditioning of our youth, which begins as soon as our parents name us. You know, before we are named, we are simply here as a baby. We are here. That's it. And slowly, over the first weeks and months, there becomes this dawning that, oh, when mother talks to me, when father talks to me, when anyone talks to me, they refer to me by a name, whatever name they've given this body mind at birth. And very quickly we learn that if we pay attention when we hear that name, we will get fed, picked up, nourished in some way. And so we begin to respond whenever we hear that name. And if it was just that simple, all would be well. Just a reference point. You want to talk to me, you say that name, I look at you. Just a reference point. But over time, we come to think of ourselves not only as that reference point, but as the body to whom that reference point has been assigned. And at that reference point, we assign all of our memories, all of our fears, all of our hopes, all of our dreams, all of our projections. And this is sort of the process of conditioning. It begins very early, within the first days or weeks after birth. And slowly we are conditioned into this belief that we are this name, this body, this mind. But the reason that you all are here, whether you know it or not, is because somewhere in your deep intuition, at some moment, you really went, really? Is that who I am? And your deep intuition led you to begin to question, who am I? Really, who am I? This is the process of awakening to spiritual life. This may not be a mental question in the beginning. Just a simple dis-ease, if you will, with this assigned reference point, the one that society and family and so on has assigned to you. So there's an unease or a dis-ease that begins to arise. It causes you to question, to ask yourself, silently maybe with your mind, who am I? And then the search begins. The search that brought you here, literally here today. Of course, this search doesn't really begin for most people until you've tried to satisfy or to know who this you is. You've put forth a lot of effort to understand who you are in the world, to understand who you are in the family, to understand who you are in the society. You've asked yourself, do I want to be this? Do I want to be that? And if you've come here to some degree, led by grace, of course, but to some degree, you've poked around a bit in the body, in the mind, and in the world. And you have come to the conclusion that you are not that. You are not that. You're not that behavior. You're not that education. You're not from that country. Maybe you're not even that gender that has been assigned to you. But you haven't yet discovered who you are. So you continue to search. And somehow, through the grace of being consciousness, you landed here. And now the primary instruction for you is stop. Drop the search. Notice that you are here. If you are going to find or discover or rediscover that which you are, your true nature as being consciousness or awareness itself, you'll have to accept that you are here. You do this by being willing, if not to stop, at least to slow down the search. The reason I say that is because the search has to turn from outward to inward. Already within you is the silence of your own being. Have you discovered that yet? You may not think you have. You may think, I have a really busy mind. I have a program. I have a plan. And I'm going to work that plan until I'm enlightened, or some such. But there's no way to discover the truth of your own being poking around in the world. At best, poking around in the world, you will discover very clearly what you are not. Because all of the pleasures, pains, sorrows, experiences, and so on of the body, mind, and the world are temporary. They're passing. Coming and going, as Bhagavan said. But eventually, through this process, you come to discover, to remember, if you will, that the only thing, it's not a thing, the only experience that you have, which is consistent through all your poking around in body, mind, and world, is the awareness which was present, no matter where you turned, no matter whether you felt successful or defeated, no matter how many failures you faced, no matter how much pain and suffering you faced. The only thing that was present under all conditions and in all circumstances is the awareness itself, that you are aware. And then the question can naturally arise, then who is this one rising throughout all of my experiences in body, mind, and world as I? Who is this I? When I refer to me or to I, or I feel this presence I am, I exist. What is that? This is the process of inquiry. If you are sitting in this room today, either intuitively or directly, the question has arisen in you, who am I? And you have come in search of that, to answer that question. So now, be here, sit. Be sure you breathe. One of the ways that the mind has of trapping us in conditioning is it cuts off the breath. It cuts off that present moment awareness that I am here. When this happens, what we experience is a dull state of torpor, or even maybe falling asleep. It's okay if we need to sleep, but when it's an avoidance of the recognition, that which is aware is here now, it becomes the sidestepping of reality. So notice, if you will, that you are here. This you is not really the you that I spoke about in the beginning when I said, have you noticed how much effort it takes to be you? This is really simply the awareness, which is aware that it is aware here now. And in this awareness, or in this recognition, there really is no need for you. So you can stop the effort to maintain a you. Remain here. Ask yourself, am I aware? No. Yes, I am aware. Now stop. Don't go any further. Don't go back. Don't go forward. Be here, now. In the space of satsang, it becomes somehow easier to understand this and to practice it, to know it, to do it, to experience it directly, because of the support of the space, because of all of you putting your energy together on this one question: who am I? Or am I aware here? You support one another. And in this space, there's a deepening of the intuitive knowing that you are not you, that something else is going on here. By becoming conscious of this possibility, if you will, there's a perceptive shift that happens. So that when you leave satsang, you go back into the world, you go back into your life, you go back into your family, you go back into the circumstances of your career, you go back into the circumstances of your health, your relationships with others. Some essence of this silence, of this here nowness, which you are, remains. And by repeatedly referencing, by repeatedly asking the question, who am I? Am I aware in this moment? And acknowledging, yes, I am here, I am aware. You begin to carry this awareness, which is the deep awareness, which is the big awareness, the spacious awareness of being, into all of your activities. When you do this, and into your own thoughts, into your own emotions, and when you do this, what rises is the opportunity for you to choose. Is this experience real? Is this who I am? If not, then who am I? As you go through your day, you have the opportunity to realize that whatever activity the body-mind is involved in, you are not that. You are the silence, the awareness itself, which is holding all of this, and that all of this is awareness itself. This is not my awareness. This is awareness itself. Awareness itself, consciousness itself, is the foundation for all of this. This is not a thought. This is a direct perception in the heart. And then the heart can open so that there can be love, kindness, compassion for yourself, for others, for the world. And this is true compassion, true kindness, true love. The reason I say true love, true kindness, and true compassion is because this compassion, this love, this kindness is not based in that you or that me that you have spent so many years, so much effort to maintain. It's come to be understood to be the nature of being, consciousness, and bliss. To experience a very subtle and very quiet happiness, and that this happiness radiates as being, consciousness, and bliss, as compassion, kindness. And all of this happens without effort. And then you find that you are very happy not to pick up this you again. Just allow the nature of your own silence, the nature of being and consciousness to flow through the heart as awareness itself. And that this awareness takes care of everything, somehow, on its own. This is grace. It is around you. It is in you and flowing all the time. So when you find yourself in challenging circumstances, there's no identification with the circumstances because you are resting in the heart of being. For some of you, this will seem like an intense practice. For others of you, it will feel so natural that you will fall into your own heart, into the heart of being, and you just won't want to come out anymore. And you'll lose interest in approaching life the way that you did before, as a conditioned consciousness. You simply won't want to pick that up. You will still be in life. Things will still be coming and going, but you will know who you are, and you will remain as that under all circumstances. This is the path of inquiry. The pathless path. All right, somewhere around. Are you ready? Mm. I was alerted early on.
Yes, I'm coming from the Netherlands, and we have this practice when somebody's really sick and death is coming, that Western medicine helps along, and you can ask for a lethal injection. They call it euthanasia.
Yes.
I'm aware that this is a practice that's not common in many other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And in other countries, it's also be looked at as suicide because you choose to play God and choose to for the moment of your own death. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about this like a few days ago amongst friends, and a good friend of mine, my best friend, actually passed away 4 months ago, and he was pretty awake. And I found it very difficult to ask him that question, but I had to. So we had a conversation about it, and he said, well, it's like what we've been talking about in Advaita, about the doership, is as if you're, if you still think, if you're still attached, if you still feel that you're doing all of this, of course you'll bind karma. It has a cause and it has an effect, karmically. And I was just curious what your take upon this is. So he basically said when you're liberated, it doesn't really matter. Of course, in the big scheme, it doesn't really matter at all, because if it's either your vasanas playing out that you choose this, and it really doesn't. But it was just a question that we had, and I thought to see if you are with me on that page or you see it differently.
And how do you feel about it? You said how he felt about it.
Yeah, I'm at that moment I had difficulties with his choice, but after talking to him, it dropped. And
difficulty with the choice, meaning that there was a reference point to this opinion or this cultural tradition that it might be suicide?
No, playing for God. It felt like for me, it was like, oh my God, you're deciding your own time of death. Why don't you let it come naturally? It was just a feeling. And it's, I guess, even though coming from the Netherlands, that was also my feeling, like you're playing for God and it's not a good thing to do. But things shifted around it, really. And now, as you know, my mom has come to that point, and I'm actually perfectly okay with it. But we just had the discussion, and yeah, I thought just to.
So now tell me the question again.
What your take? What your take is on if you.
So first of all, the question arises: if you were never born, who dies? You see, the recognition of the sage, of the Yanni, is that nothing is ever happening. No one is ever born. No one is ever dying. This is just the play of consciousness which is going on here. So first you can ask yourself the question, was I ever born in relation to these cultural traditions or prerogatives? And if you come to the realization that that which is aware, or that which is conscious, or being consciousness, or the supreme, or Brahman, is that which is always existent and is self-existent, right? So it is never born and it never dies. And if you come to the place through some discovery, either naturally or through inquiry or some other spiritual practice, that this I, personally, was never born. You see, this is the moment of true awakening, is when one recognizes beyond a shadow of a doubt, I have always been that. I am that, as Siddhartha said, I am that, and I have always been that. And the deep recognition of this is that I was never born. I have always been, and I will always be. This is not the I of the personal. This is the I of the supreme. Brahman has never been born, has never died, will never be born, will never die. So then this becomes really a moot question, or a...
It is.
Yes, it becomes, because there's no doubt about that. The second part I might point out about that is that there is nothing ever happening in this moment of being consciousness for an apparent individual, a you. There's nothing ever happening, though it appears that way to us, which is why we make this effort to be a me, but there is nothing ever happening which is not your destiny. If you take a body, there's a logical sequence. You are born, you face old age, sickness, and death. This is, or old age and death, definitely, whether you survived old age or not. You're very fortunate if you do. But it's not really your choice. The illusion of having a mind is that I am the one who's making all these choices. They are my choices. Question that. Is that really true? Those who believe in destiny say that's a kind of a fatalistic way of looking at life. But those who know the true meaning of destiny know that you make whatever decisions you make that is not based solely on your mental thinking it through and making a decision. You are, by destiny, conditioned toward a certain set of decisions that you will make at any point or time in your life. Exactly. And you cannot step outside of that destiny. For the body mind, and we're talking about the you that assumes it's a body mind, right? We're not talking about you as the supreme. If you are the supreme, you simply don't care. Not in the negative sense, but in the sense that it's not important to put your energy in that direction. There is no need for that conversation within the mind or within the being, because there is this recognition that it has been the destiny of the self to recognize itself as being consciousness. That has been accomplished. All doubt is removed. So whatever is destined for the body-mind is fine. I'm lacking nothing. I need nothing. Whatever is needed is what will come. So then this becomes a very individual kind of journey. You've heard me say before that, there is not one path to awakening. There are 8.5 billion paths to awakening. There are as many paths to awakening as there are apparent human beings. So there's an individual quality which is not based in the you, but which is for each and every person, that there will be certain events, certain experiences, certain understandings, certain illuminations that will come or not in a given lifetime. And all of that is based in the recognition that all is Brahman, all is consciousness. And so that which is here is the one which is in control of that, not me. So it just appears that we're making decisions. So if we know this, then we can do something very important for ourselves. We can give up the idea that we have to have an evaluation, a judgment, a conversation about anything whatsoever. If you know that you are being consciousness, then there's only one thing you know. Whatever the circumstances, whatever the circumstances, all is well. All is well. This belongs to the great emptiness, nothingness, silence of being. All is well. When we know this, we not only allow ourselves to be here in this moment without a past and a future, we also allow what is rising, what is coming and going, to do that. And we don't obstruct that with our own opinions, our own evaluations, our own decisions, and our own judgments. We simply allow the dance or the lila of life to be what it is, and know that that is held in this greater awareness of being, consciousness, and bliss. That includes, in your circumstance, what you're going into now, that includes whatever feelings you have at the moment, at the time, whatever feelings that you listen with an open heart and an open mind to the wishes of your mom, that you receive that and accept that as God's grace for her at that moment. And I know that you will do this. You will not go there and see a great deal of suffering, because you've told me that she is in a great deal of pain. She is suffering a great deal now. And that is part of this decision that she's come to. And when you see that for yourself, let the heart of being, let the heart of love crack wide open. You won't hold her back, and you won't judge her, and you won't evaluate. Just allow. Feel the love of allowing. Use this as an opportunity to know that that is also something you can do for yourself. You can allow yourself to be intimately in the experience. And you can let go when she lets go. Don't worry about whether it has meaning for anyone else, whether it has social, societal, or all of those things are based in conditioning. If you want to live free of conditioning. Be here now. Break open your heart using what's in front of you. And be grateful for whatever teaching, whatever learning, whatever love comes from the experience. Be grateful to her. Be grateful to life itself. In the last moment of anyone's life, there's not room for anything beyond love and gratitude if you are really feeling deeply. So these deeper practices of gratitude, acceptance, allowing, these become your guideposts, your pointers toward cracking open this heart in a way that maybe you thought you never could feel before. And stay aware that you will be in her position one day in some way. What would you want for yourself at that moment? Give that to her. This open field of love and kindness and compassion. Don't worry about me. You will come back to Tiruvannamalai at some point, and you will see that nothing has changed and everything has changed. But still, you are aware. Was there another question or comment?
Well, I think if you had not addressed me, I would not even have asked the question. But I'm happy that I did, because you answered in a different way. It wasn't that much of a mind question, just something that we wanted to share.
Yeah. Well, and of course, I never really answer just for the person who's asking the question. So there may be someone else in the room or someone else on the audio at some point who will be asking a similar kind of question. So we try to answer in the fullest sense of the self that asked the question here is also the self that hears the answer under a different set of circumstances. I can hear the question inside that mind. Yes.
I don't want to break the atmosphere because I'm very angry about this. Because so-called religion, like I'm coming from Europe and we are basically Christians there, except
Yes.
we are many atheists.
Yes.
But the Christianity says that like the suicide, which these things also is, it's just the worst kind of the sins and the mortal sins. I'm very angry about it. Like how the fucking spiritual people can say something about this, because it's like this. It's not compassionate towards the people who need to do it. Like my grandmother killed herself because she need to fucking do it. And like even here fucking spiritual people are saying, oh, it's a bad thing. She will, even fucking Hinduist says like she will reincarnate in something wrong. And it's fucking wrong. It's just like so bad. It's not the spirituality. It's because, you know, what we are doing here is we are like removing the conditions and fucking thoughts. And this is just the thoughts which are not compassionate. It's like, it's make me very angry. It's, I don't know, either I'm taking this part of spirituality and religion is very wrong, or it is very wrong.
Yes. But for you, the opportunity that's rising is to perhaps ask the question, who is it that becomes so angry when someone disagrees with me, or when I disagree with someone else? Because all of this is the dance of the world. It's the dance of the mind. And if what we are doing is we are rediscovering our inherent and innate freedom, then we have to challenge what the mind tells us. And this includes not only what the social conditioning is, you know, of someone who spoke to you in that way and said that this is going to have to be paid, a debt paid later or something like that. There has to be this recognition that it's not really about cultural prerogatives. It's not really about other people's opinions. It's really about, there is a trigger in you that when you hear this kind of thing, you don't just go quiet and you don't simply know in the heart of being, that is not truth. That's not truth. Rather, you get angry about it. So you can ask yourself the question, when I become angry about this, that, or the other, who am I referring to? Who feels this volcano of emotion? Does this one who feels this and has this response emotionally actually exist? If you don't ask that question, eventually that bubbling up that happened will, of its own lack of energy, it will subside. But the root of it will still be there. And so the next time something like that, and someone makes a comment like that or whatever, or challenges you on that point, this volcano erupts again. When you ask yourself the question, who is being referred to when I say, I am angry? You begin to cut at the root of that belief system, that root of that vasana, the root of that tendency. And eventually, sooner or later, when that tendency arises in you, you will catch it early. And rather than wanting to push back, argue, evaluate, fight with that person or with that particular mind, you will simply go quiet. And you will let that moment pass. And this is the cutting of the root. The root of a tendency or a vasana is not cut through conflict. It's cut through allowing. Not necessarily allowing someone to have an opinion that you feel is untrue, but rather allowing yourself to feel the way that that makes you feel, and challenging that sense of feeling, that sense of conditioning, that belief system. By asking the question, when I become angry, who is this I that I am referring to? Find that one. If you say, I become angry when someone says this, you are essentially saying, I am the body. I am the conditioning. I am the system of belief. I am the cultural misunderstandings. Or I am the opposition to the cultural misunderstandings in this case. Go deeper than that. Ask the question, to whom is this question arising? To whom is this thinking arising? To whom is this emotion arising? To whom am I referring when I say I? Then, chop, 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 chop. The root of tendency and conditioning is being eradicated forever. What happens when you do that is you use, this is a very important point, you do not repress the anger. You use the energy of this anger that arises in order to uproot it. So we're not saying we push it aside. We're not saying we deny it. We're not saying we don't feel it. What we're saying is we use it. Because I am aware that this is here, that this tendency toward anger, this tendency toward pushback, this tendency toward conflict is here, that can be used. This is a potent energy. We can see this in the world because the world is full of anger and angry people and angry countries and angry world, right? And we see what happens when that anger is unleashed. But what would happen if that anger was turned within, not against myself, but for myself? To ask the question, how can I use this anger, this upset that I feel within my own being to uproot this tendency to react and to move into conflict rather than reconciliation? Reconciliation can only happen within you. So use the energy in that way. Okay? There is nothing arising in your experience in this moment which is not here for your benefit. You understand this? Can you accept it? There is nothing in your experience which is not here for your benefit. I'm not saying it's positive. I'm not saying that every experience is positive or every experience should be positive. I'm simply saying there is a way in which whatever you believe about whatever is happening can be used. Whether it's your health, your relationships, your broken marriage, whatever it is, there's a way in which that particular energy can be used to fuel, if you will, the recognition of your prior awakened state. So you can ask the question, how can I use this? And of course, if the circumstances are very difficult, you're in a lot of pain, you're in a war zone, something like this. There are many people here now who have come here because they have left a war zone or a potential war zone, or they've left in opposition to a war. But they have to ask themselves, how can I use this? If we don't, the perpetuation of what is referred to as karma, cause and effect, goes on not only within us, but within our home country, within our families, within our relationships. So by asking ourselves, how can I use this, whatever this is, and whatever this momentary experience is, how can I use this to inform my awakening? We shift the paradigm away from blame, conflict, anger, into allowing, into compassion, into understanding, into recognition of being consciousness. Don't deny anything, use everything.
I've been using the approach of when, anger is coming up to say, on whose behalf is this arising? And when I look, I can't find the who.
Can't find the who. Mm-hmm.
But then it begs the question, how? How does this arise on behalf of a no one?
Yeah, this is a really good question. It arises because everything is spontaneously arising together or interconnected in some way. But to try to understand, like to try to find the root of that how, it's impossible to know because it might go back to your childhood. It might go back to a previous life. It might go back to the conditions which are arising because of the people that are around you. You see, you aren't in this alone. This is the great misconception of your life, right? Is that you are somehow in this alone, that you're not rising as life itself in some larger way. Well, if you are rising as life itself, then there has to be this allowing, this permission that says, whatever is here is life itself, and there is somehow a benefit. There is somehow, if not a benefit, there is a support for awakening in this very experience. And we can begin to explore that rather than the how and the why. The Buddha said, if you ask how, if you ask why, in relation to something which is arising in the dependently originated moment, he said, what you are doing is you are asking yourself to pull a piece of yarn out of a giant ball. And you will pull on that piece of yarn, and he called these things imponderables, which says a lot. The English word imponderable means you'll never figure it out. And he said you will pull that thread of yarn, that string of yarn, you will pull on that through eternity, and you will miss your opportunity to awaken because you'll be so consumed with how did this happen? Why did this happen? What is happening here? You'll be consumed with those kinds of questions.
So stuff is just happening, and then the mind says, ooh, that's a me, and kind of associates the identity with, oh, I'm going to grab this bubbling cauldron of anger and call it mine.
Call it mine, yeah.
And then by just questioning that truth of that association, it seemed that that meanness was optional. that wasn't necessary for anything.
Yeah, it's even more profound than that. It's even more than by questioning that. You said questioning that, the way that works. That is definitely helpful. But more importantly, by simply watching it rise and then fall without even questioning it, this is just the spontaneous arising of what is. All of this is happening. There's nothing separate here. I have to keep saying that. There's nothing separate here. You are not sitting in this room because of something you did in this lifetime necessarily. You are sitting in this room because you have been on this quest. You have been questioning the truth of your own experience, perhaps for lifetimes. And that has landed you in a place where others are also questioning and saying, But this is all rising together. The appearance that we are here, we are separate, is the illusion. The truth of being here is that the self is ever present. And all of this is rising in the self, right? The self is not arising in that body, in that body, in that body, in that body. The self is here. Brahman is here, however you want to call it, right? Life itself is here. It is the big vessel, you can say. And all of this, all of us, arising as that self-awareness. That self-awareness gets veiled or hidden by the perception that you are separate and he is separate and she is separate and I am separate. That's the veiling quality of it. As soon as we pierce that, then we see, I don't even need to question what's happening here. It's just rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. And there's this presence which allows that. There's not a me that allows it. It's just arising in the presence of self-knowledge or self-knowing or self-realization. Then one sees that this me isn't necessary, so why bother? Why expend the energy? Which takes us back to what I said at the beginning, right? There is no you. Isn't that what I said at the beginning? There is no you. And even this game of questioning, seeking, searching, and so on, that seems to be related to a you, is not. It might be the manifestation of grace or something else if you want to put it in more flowery terms. It probably is. It feels like it is. Somehow you have come into the intuitive recognition that there is only one self. So don't hold out against it. You are here. You know it to be true. And every time this sense of separateness, distinctness, individuality rises up, question that. Don't make the process hard and difficult. Just question it. Is this true? If the answer is, I don't know, or no, this isn't true, now you can say, good, show me what is real. I see that this is not real. I see that this is not true, or this is not truth. So what is real? We put things in the form of a question in the inquiry, not to support this me-ness, but rather to cut it. Bhagavan said that the inquiry, in whatever form we use it, who am I aware, is this real, what is real? The inquiry in all of those forms is just the stick that we use to turn the fire. When the fuel of the fire is gone, the stick is also burnt up. This is what he said, that this is the reason this works in this way, because it doesn't reference us back to the conditioning or the belief that the way the mind evaluates what's going on is true. It deeply questions what the mind is saying. Is this true? Is this real? Who am I? So if you want to pull on this thread, you can, but hopefully you lose interest in unraveling that ball of yarn sooner rather than later. And when you stop wanting to unravel the ball of yarn, you stop asking how, why, what for, what do I need to learn, what do I need to understand? That all just falls apart in favor of that which you are as here now, being, consciousness, and bliss. Yes.
It's like you said, like use this anger and like even like these negative emotions are like positive in a way.
Yeah.
And it's like
you can find the positive in them.
Actually, it's kind of confession maybe in here. Like there is a very sattvic people loving God and having like this, bhakti approach, and I actually hated God a lot. It's the worst kind of pain, and maybe not like the intensity, but overall it's just the most disgusting pain. We are really because he made all this suffering, right? And if you are thinking about it, just he made it, and so he's not good, he's terrible, almighty, and so
yeah.
Just hating him very much. And then at some point it's really kind of unbearable when it's too much, when it's like just too much. And at some point I said like, okay, I'm doing mistakes, and he did mistakes, and at some point just like everything stopped. Like I kind of wanted to forgive myself and at the same time forgive him. And then all these questions are also the part of the trouble only, because if everything stopped, the question is even not there. So like you are saying you cannot find a solution if the God is like all knowing. And there is this Christian story how the world began. Like there was a paradise and there was a fucking tree in the middle, and the God said, hey, just don't eat the apple in the middle. But he created a man, so he must know he will take the apple. And even in Ramana say everything is predestined. So he made, and there is another approach like telling like I'm the puppet of the God. So okay, if I'm the puppet of the God, he take the apple through me and make me suffer. So there is no really solution. There is no story to explain it.
The solution is to ask who you are.
Yeah, or like in this case, suffer so much that you just cannot do anything but forgive. Just there is no other way out.
Yes, and of course, this is really the value of suffering, isn't it? The value of suffering is that we as humans and as minds, we only have so much tolerance for this.
Yeah, then everything
This
drops.
is a blessing.
Yes.
Because this recognition that we only have so much tolerance for suffering leads to this point where you say, well, I don't understand what's going on, but the one thing I know is that the next step is forgiveness of myself.
So beautiful, and then everything falls. Yes. Like the question falls, and when the original question falls, then it's nothing, and then there is just everything is beautiful at the moment. That's a very big shift from the very terrible. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's just there, and it's there like always behind the question. So kind of like now know that I'm kind of making question stupidly. It's not necessary to do anything. It's just it's a bit happy to do so, but it's not anymore necessary.
Yeah.
There is really peace behind the questions even. So even the questions are obstacle. Even we are trying to find a solution to the questions. It's a good intention, but it's not working. It's a part of the trouble. It's like cleaning with the dirt.
Yes.
I don't know how to express it.
No, that was good. Cleaning with dirt. Yeah, that's good. That works. So now, from this understanding, it's you are in the position where you can go into this deep silence. And this is the true meaning of stopping asking the questions. It's not that you stop asking the questions and you just, go into some sort of oblivion or some sort of deep sleep. It means you stop asking the questions and step into aware, empty silence. Know yourself as being consciousness and bliss. All right, thank you very much. Know that you are the self. When all else fails you, remember, I am the self. That which is aware is here now as being, consciousness, and bliss. Hari Om. Tat Sat.